if you don't want to be on the live stream. We're back on the live stream. Welcome back, everybody. Just one last thing to do today, which is to report back what groups worked on just now in terms of adding to the public engagement recommendations that the process committee had already made. And then just as a reminder, you'll get an email from us in the upcoming days inviting you to take what else? Yet another little survey to vote on these recommendations. So you get a chance to vote up and down on all of them. We'll put them all together from all the different groups. We'll put them all together, and then you'll be able to say how you feel about each of them. So with that, let me turn it back over to Alex to go through and do a little report out.
Great, thanks, Lynn. So this is going to be pretty quick, but we're going to go through group by group and share the up to 3 bullet points that you added to the list. I will share my screen, and kind of the only additional thing, in addition to reading your few bullet points or introducing them to the group, is to identify if there's a duplicate. So if you heard a previous group say something that's super similar to what your group came up with, you can just note that briefly, and we'll kind of put those on the same line in the poll that you get. Okay. I'm going to share my screen, and group 1, I think this is Will, go ahead and share with us. I think all of ours are on group or page 2 here.
Great. Yeah, we had 3 points, I think 1 additional recommendation, and then, I'm sorry, 2 additional recommendations and then 1 rationale. So the first one we had was provide childcare during meetings. This was for kind of making an attempt to accommodate like young families that might be really busy, but also like very relevant and important voices to hear in this panel. I think someone had mentioned like an underrepresentation of young parents or something along those lines. And yeah, so the rationale that we have under that is just to have a wider diversity of participants, especially for young parents. And then the third point we had was allow for individual input in addition to collective input, provide space for disagreement and free expression of individual opinions. So this kind of speaks for itself, but just like having more space for individual input as a kind of a broad, yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Will. And you were perfect on time, but I forgot to warn you all that I'll cut folks off after 2 minutes just so we can get through everyone. So that's great. And let's move on to Amanda's group, who's going to report out here.
That would be me. I think I'll stick to just the stuff we added because we liked a lot of the other stuff. Which let's see, what things did we add? I think there was a further down, if we could scroll more.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we wanted to mention that, yeah, that providing the laptops, the access to internet, stipends, aids in creating the diverse group that we have and reducing barriers and boundaries to people who want to participate. We added a 13, which was kind of a little bit in opposition to one of the other ones, which is that prior education shouldn't be a requirement for engaging. With everyone, one of the great things about this was that everyone started with the same information and the access to the same amount of information at the same time. And so that was really leveled the playing field and helped keep everyone on a level playing field, I think is what we were trying to get at. Okay. I feel like there was more, but I think that's what I got.
Thanks, Kenzie. Okay, so it looks like
there was the daytime thing too. We added
yes. Trying to find where that was.
Second page.
Second page too. Yeah, okay, right here.
Yes, on the time that evening meetings are good, we also wanted to say that daytime meetings might be beneficial as well because there is a different demographic that have either not predictable jobs or, night shifts and things that, they would want to participate as well, but we weren't quite sure how to make those mesh. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kenzie. And let's move on to group 3. Thanks so much. So Awab's group, who's willing to report out here?
This is me, Jose.
Mhm.
So we added a rationale to number 2. Number 2 is the city should devote a little more resources and more time to these processes. We actually wanted to change the wording of should to say it needs to. But the rationale is that a process that includes residents of underrepresented communities requires more support services that needs to be prioritized by the city. Support services such as Zoom, education, onboarding, stipend, internet access, translation, etc. Then we added a rationale for point number 5. There should be a mix of us into other processes, a mix of old or experienced folks and newer folks. And
I cannot hear anybody. Can you hear me speaking?
Yes.
We can, Carolyn. Yeah, we'll try to get you some tech support. Okay, go ahead, Jose.
Can everyone else hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And again, this is in public engagement recommendations writ large or in general, not just for this process. The aim should be for 50-50 split. 50 people who are experienced to the process, or 50% are experienced and 50% are new members. And the rationale is that this allows folks with more experience to mentor new folks and for fresh ideas to be infused with those who have experience going through these processes. This also prevents a few people being the ones who always participate. And then if we move on to page number 2.
Mhm.
We added a rationale to number 9, which everyone else has also done. Every committee involved residents should provide laptops, access to the internet, and a stipend. And the rationale is that these are necessary for individuals who will not participate otherwise due to accessibility.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jose. Ready. And just to confirm, no one has seen any duplicates yet, correct? Is that right for you, Jose? These are all kind of new. You wouldn't want to lump them in with what other groups have said so far.
Excuse me. I think that at least in the quick viewing of the 2 groups that came before me, I think that number 9 could be combined into one big rationale. I think we're basically saying the same thing in different ways.
Okay. Thanks for flagging that. Great. Let's move on to group 4.
I'm going to interject really quickly. Sorry, Alex, while you're scrolling. Carolyn, can you hear now? You can just nod. Okay, we have tech help. I'm coming. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Isabella's group.
Hey, that's going to be me. Can you hear me?
We can.
Cool. I don't believe any of ours overlap, but the first one is an amendment to the very first point, and it's the bottom of that list of rationales. And this came out of a conversation where Ron brought up the point that the city, identifying how they have historically achieved public input and how this could expand on that, like this process here, in terms of like diversity, participation, and engagement. We decided to amend that statement to say the city should adopt this process either by the creation of its own moderation group or by the employment of healthy democracy and or similar civic engagement organizations in order to create kind of a parallel avenue of civic engagement along with your more traditional things of like city hall meetings and things like that. And then the next one we went to was at the very end. We added a little bit of an amendment to the translation and interpretation services, also adding to offer live closed captioning services for the hearing impaired and services that are available that do kind of like translations and closed captioning on the spot, like software wise, if that's possible and available. And also to add, another smaller, more inaccessible subgroups of individuals and communities that might have unique perspectives as well.
Great. Thank you, Troy. And we'll move on to our last group. Who's reporting out here?
That's me. Sorry. We added a rationale to number 2, basically stating that this panel made a lot of information very apparent, and so that would likely save money, time, and stress for the city just to build a better framework. Then I believe the rest of ours were on the second page.
Okay.
We felt our rationale for number 9 could also apply to number 12, but both of them I feel have been covered by other groups, at least in a similar way. But just accessibility is key through the internet or translation or interpretation for other languages. Sorry.
That's okay. It looks like you have one on 11 too.
Yes, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
We felt the evenings were best as many people work during the daytime, and Saturdays or Sundays may be tough for some as they may work or have other obligations.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for that quick report out, everybody. Fantastic work. Super exciting, and we'll follow up with a poll in the next day or two. And to wrap us up, I'll pass it back over to Lynn. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much, everybody. And again, you'll see all of those again when we send out a poll that will have all that stuff in it, and you'll get a chance to vote on the recommendations, the sub-recommendations, if they are sort of ones underneath there. Not the rationales, but we're going to make really clear that the rationales are not necessarily, you don't have to agree with every rationale in order to vote for a recommendation or vice versa. So the rationales are there sort of supporting evidence, but I know there was a little bit confusion about that in the previous report, and we'll just make really clear about that this time around. But the rationales are obviously give a lot more detail, but don't necessarily represent everybody who might vote for that single recommendation, because that would be really difficult to capture all of that together. Anyway, we'll explain that in a survey. So look at that, look for that from us as a way to note your support or lack of support for the different recommendations that you've added. If that all sounded confusing, don't worry, ignore it. Just look for an email from us. It's getting toward the end of my night. Okay, let's see. There's one more thing I have to note here. Oh yeah, which is that the process committee will be meeting one more time between now and our April meetings, and their job will just be to take pieces from that survey that you did on Thursday, the stuff about panelist experience, and see if anything in there also adds rationale. So they won't be adding any new recommendations or anything like that, but just does anything in there naturally fit as sort of a reason why something that's already on the list might be extra important. So I'll be getting in touch with you members of the process committee before then. Great. Then we'll be coming back in April for more fun, for another 2.5 meetings. But for the time being, one more thing to announce to you, which is look for a check in the mail from us soon. We're going to be putting that in the mail, I think, tomorrow. So look for that from us, and a big warm thank you from me and from the whole team for all of your work. Fabulous being here with you, and you're such an incredible service to the city. And I wanted to just end with Terry, if you want to say a couple last words before we go.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I'll keep this super short, but I wanted to just express my huge amount of gratitude to you all. I'm so impressed by the time and effort and genuine care that you've put into your recommendations. It's so valuable. it is being heard, and I just really appreciate you. And I'll see you in April.
Oh,
Take
you're
care, everyone.
done.